Happy Friday, guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Dubs. I'm your host, Bill T. Well, it's a new year, and there are new podcasts coming your way, and today's the day where episode 300 comes out. So if you guys have been listening for a long time, there are 299 other episodes that you guys get to listen to. Technically, a couple others because I split one or two into multiple podcasts when it should have just been one back in the early days. But you know what? We're just going to round it down to 300, although we've done technically more than that. Today's the day that we put out episode 300. So I appreciate all you guys for listening. And if you guys enjoy the podcast, make sure you share it with all your friends, all your VW enthusiast buddies that are into the scene. Send a link to this podcast as where and how you listen to it and invite them to join and listen to Let's Talk Dubs. Again, it's your source for your weekly update on history gone by, cars from the past, cars from the future, stuff that's happening today and stuff that's happening yesterday. Well, today we're going to go back to 1987. So if you got your VW Trans, your August of 1987 issue, you will definitely remember the bug named Eliminator. Had kind of a ZZ Top flair to it, big whale tail in the back. Eventually had some Boyd Coddingtons on there. Debuted with wide fiberglass fenders and hard running boards. Built by an 18-year-old kid back in 1987. Worked at a body shop, wanted to build a custom bug, and let me tell you what, he built a custom bug. And in the early days of the 80s, really coming out of left field, East Coast guys weren't getting the coverage they should have, and Southeast for sure. And Tony Hunter put the Southeast on the map. Lived the dream of most of us at 18 years old with his car on the cover of the magazine, a nationwide magazine, and his girlfriend posing on it. I mean, what could be better than that? So it's a great story about this car, the history of the build, what happened to it, how long it took him to build it, all kinds of detailed, interesting stories about the Eliminator Bug built by Tony Hunter. So we're going to get into that in just a minute. But before we get the podcast, make sure you guys go support our sponsors, VW Trends Magazine, a magazine for the people, by the people, tons of cool how-to articles, lots of features, more in-depth than any other magazine. Hey, it's not Cow Look Weekly. This is VW Trends, all the trends happening in the VW world today. So go subscribe at VWTrendsMagazine.com. And also our buddies at Ross Wolf. They just came out with these new Viton pushrod tube seals. So no more hard rubber seals. Go get you some Viton pushrod seals from Ross Wolf right now. Tons of cool stuff on their website. Not only do they have stuff that makes your engine look cool, but it also performs better. So they've also got high quality spark plugs that look like vintage old braided wires, but these are heavy duty, high quality, high performance spark plugs. So go check them out today at rosswolf.com. That's rosswolf with a U.com. Well, one of the first shows I'm going to be at this year, guys, if you're going to be out there, I will be at the Saturday drive-in at the Grand National Roadster Show. A lot of Volkswagens have been showing up the past couple of years, and that is the first place in Southern California that I'm going to be taking Zorba to. So if you're going to be out and about, I'll be at the Grand National Roadster Show on Saturday, February 1st. Same day as Octo, I'll be down in Pomona at the Grand National Roadster Show. So if you guys are out and about, come check me out, say hi, see what's up. I always have something special for listeners. So if I don't see you there, I'll probably see you sometime in June in Southern California. So anyway, guys, we're going to get into it. Episode 300, Tony Hunter, the Eliminator Bug, this week on Let's Talk Dubs.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen. It's got everything that people who like the bug like.
Okay, ready. So on today's podcast, we've been back just recently doing the cover shots for, we went through our last YouTube channel and did our magazine cover best of pictures, try to figure out which magazines we like the best. Went through a lot of the stuff in the 80s. And on today's podcast, I've got one of the 80s cars that was all the rage back in the day, especially with all the stuff that was going on. And at that time in the early 80s, you know, ZZ Top came out with the Eliminator hot rod, and then not long after that, you guys remember the August 87 cover of VW Trends, which happened to have the Eliminator Bug on there, And so on today's podcast, I've got Tony Hunter, and he's in Loganville, Georgia. Tony, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Typically the way we want to talk about the Bug, it's a great story on the car. And one of the things that the way we always start the podcast really is, what's your VW story and how did you get into Volkswagens?
Wow. I was real young. Of course, like I said, money was tight between school and trying to figure out what to do with your life. I turned around and found a little Volkswagen, and the guy said, he said, you can get it pretty cheap. And I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I said, but I'm going to try something. So I brought the car back to the shop, took it apart, and that was about the time, ZZ Top was out as far as their Eliminator car and all that. And we all wanted a nice car, and everybody wanted a street ride and what have you. And I thought, you know what? I said, I got just enough talent, I think, if I can make something out of this. And with the help of a few friends and a little bit of determination and a lot of time on my hands, what you see is what transpired from everything. And it wound out to be one of the most fun. I've had a lot of fun with my friends. We went everywhere in the car. I mean, I didn't have a trailer, didn't have a truck. I mean, I drove this thing to Florida, drove it to Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Wilmington.
And you drove it in the condition it was in the magazine, like looking just like it was chopped, all that stuff. You drive that car everywhere?
Absolutely. I mean, threw luggage in it however I had to. I mean, when we go to a show, matter of fact, the trophy that came back from the Bug Hut, we had to disassemble it to put it in a car, bring it back with us. I mean, it was the only mode of transportation. If we were going to eat, that was what we were going in. If we were going to, didn't make it at Walmart, whatever was there, that's what we went in. That was it.
Now, what's the story on the car, and what's the motivation behind doing the ZZ Top theme with the car?
It all started, with money. You could buy them cheap enough in the 80s. That was a great foundation platform to start with. And I saw a chop bug in Hollywood Nights, and it was something about that car. When he pulled up, car made just great sound, jumps out of the car, suicide doors, chopped. I thought, man, that's a cool car. And I said, well, I'll start off to build something like that. Of course, everybody wanted a street rod at that point in time as well, but it's a combination of both. I wanted the car to be right-hand drive. I wanted to try and be able, when you're cruising up and down the road, be on the side of tension where everybody was at. The car fit everything that I needed it to do. The platform was perfect.
And now you were into Volkswagens previous to this, or this was your first attempt at any kind of custom car or anything?
First attempt for any custom car, first build anything. I was 17 years old.
Now, do you remember anything that triggered you just to specifically pursue VWs?
I picked up a VW Trends magazine probably 2 years prior to that and just kind of thumbing through it. And like I said, finances were a main thing at that point in time. I was just finishing up in high school, and the cars everything coming out of California was just insane. I mean, nobody's seen anything on that East Coast. Nothing like that. A lot of my friends turned around, were in Volkswagens. And of course, like I said, I'm trying to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. This right here, when I'm telling you, was a monument for me. It absolutely was.
And now with the style, like you get the car. Now you're currently working at a paint body shop at the time that you get the car, like because you're already in the automotive thing. I mean, this is a pretty bold move. You got widened fenders on it. You've got built-in running boards, chop top. I mean, you got just about everything you can thrown at it. What's the impetus like where you decide to get the courage? I mean, are you paint body guy? Like how do you get to this point with this car?
I am now. This was the first attempt for any type of custom work, paint work, anything. The collision industry, I worked in a shop after school 3 or 4 hours a day. But I had amazing teachers to the point that they were trying to pass this trade on to somebody who wanted to learn it. I mean, they were great guys. But yeah, this is the first attempt for any type of custom paint work, custom body work, any type of fabrication. And everything's done as far as the fabrication wise with, just hand tools, no sheet metal brake, no English wheel, no nothing. I mean, it's just all as raw as we could get.
And so you're a kid at a body shop, and you're like, hey fellas, I'm going to build this car. Can you guys give me some insight or some help? And here's my plans: widened fenders, chop roof, square headlights. You kind of went a little crazy with it. What did the guys at the body shop think?
Well, they wanted me to donate it to the school as one of those take a swing with a bat type things for $1. It was a little on the rough side. It had a rope tied around the hood handle where somebody used it for a sled, and it was pretty beat, but it was priced right, and just a lot of ambition and maybe foolish ambition at that point in time to take a project that big, but determination as a teenager was just insane, and I just wanted it bad. I really did. Really did. And once it started coming together, all the guys at the shop kind of got behind me and kept pushing me and wouldn't let me give up. I mean, there was no giving up at all.
And what was the total build time on this car?
6 months.
You built that car in 6 months.
6 months.
So you took this car, you chopped the top, you suicide the doors, you do widened fenders, built-in running boards, square headlights. Now, what's the story? Are the front fenders fiberglass or are they steel?
Front fenders came from Creative Carcraft. They were the first set of the ones that they had put out, and the boards were awesome to me because when I got down and tried to figure out how I wanted to put all this together, they were so helpful. They were absolutely amazing. And like I said, as a kid, there was no internet. I mean, you had to call them and talk to them on the phone, and figure out what to do. It's even with the wheels, the second set of wheels I put on it. When I talked to Boyd Coddington, he kind of giggled about putting a set of Boyd wheels on a Volkswagen. He said, "Are you out of your mind?" I said, "No." He said, "4-lug bolt pattern." I said, "Absolutely." So like I said, there's a lot of help. This industry and this hobby is just absolutely phenomenal. There's people out there still to this day that I can't thank enough, really, in all honesty.
No, I mean, it definitely looks like it's a labor of love without question. And the chop on it is quite a bit of work, especially, I mean, probably the hardest car to chop is a Volkswagen because you've got to cut the roof into so many pieces. With the guys that you work with at the shop, they had experience doing that?
No, the guys that I worked with at the shop were just collision repair. It was kind of trial and error. If I had to do it all over again, I'd probably do it a little different. And if you look at the roof line around the windows is flat, and it's got an arch in the roof. And if you look at it, it's still got the factory back glass in it. So I laid everything down to try to get a 6-inch chop all the way across it, and it'd be flat, but still have enough headroom in there. You see how the roof goes up in the back? Mm-hmm. It worked out perfect because the rear shot of the car was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great looking chop, and you have this car for a few years. I mean, how long do you show the car for?
Car was shown from about 86 to somewhere around 96, and kids come along, bills come in, you know how that goes. Mm-hmm. And it had to go to turn around and take care of some school things for my children.
Yeah. And who ended up buying the car?
I had a guy out of Snellville, Georgia, swap me a 70 model SS big block Chevelle and a 64 SS small block Chevelle. Both of those cars for that car, and in turn I sold both of those. And I have hunted for this car for the past 10 years.
Really? And so since that car has been sold, you don't know what happened to it?
No idea. I don't even know where to even start at this point.
And the last place it was in Georgia.
It was in Georgia.
That's interesting. I didn't know that the car was the car disappeared. Now, when it was featured in the magazine, obviously it had centerline wheels on it. Now, there's a whole thing with your first show that you went to. Is that right? Like a whole dramatic situation, just a night before you got to the show, right?
Yeah, we got into the show area in Florida, and we checked in the hotel and everything. We were going to go out and grab a bite to eat. I had spoke with a couple of guys from around there, a couple of clubs, a couple of guys trying to get their cars together. We went and I stopped at a gas station, put gas in it, and had got out of the car, went inside, come back out, and it had gotten run into. Of course, the car being right-hand drive, girl was with me. She got out, and they're screaming and hollering back and forth. You backed into me, they backed into who? And I said, steering wheel's on the other side. Nobody's driving it. It's parked. And it was pretty bad. It tore the right fender up, the right quarter, running board. I was devastated. Like I said, at that point in time, I'm still a kid. Some guys that were in the parking lot from a little body shop over in Lakeland, Florida, come over. He said, I don't know what kind of skill you got or whatever. My guys are trying at my shop trying to get some cars together for a show. He said, we'll give you whatever you need. You're welcome to the shop. Whatever you think you can do. We took the fender off of it in the parking lot and the running board off of the parking lot and took off to their shop. The guys helped me all night, whatever I needed. Like I said, it's not like you can call a paint store and get some paint. So whatever they had there, we tinted it around, worked around with it, straightened the fender out, straightened the quarter out. Thank God it stayed out of stripe, got the running board fixed, put everything together as far as paint-wise, stuck it in another car. They followed me up to the show. We got there about 15 minutes before closeout check-in, put the car together in the parking lot. And it was just absolutely one of the best experiences that I've ever had as far as everybody coming together. I mean, these guys didn't know me from Adam's house cat, and just give it all. It was an amazing experience.
It's definitely, it's incredible when you have, other car guys and you suffer some kind of situation, and these guys are like, hey man, we're all in to help you get whatever we need to get going for this thing to help you get on the road. And it's definitely, the car community is always a group of guys that are willing to pitch in and help each other out, which is always just, you can't say enough about that. It's incredible that this big show that you go to, you kind of take some pretty serious damage the night before the event, then pull it off. And then what was the result when you got to the show? How'd you place at that show?
We won best of show, best interior. It was just great. And that was my first show. I'd never shown a vehicle of any caliber. I'd been to a car show, but everybody turned around and said, if you want to start somewhere, you need to start down there. It was just, man, I think back and it just brings back just a lot of emotion. It was really emotional. It was overwhelming. And like I said, you talk about the car community, those guys owed me nothing. They didn't know me. They knew me from nothing. Yeah. And they just jumped head first in there.
Well,
wow, that's old.
Yeah. Well, we shot a picture.
That's an old picture right there.
Right? Is that you with the big shag on the head there? The big old. You didn't even need a mask. You just put your hair in front of your face, man.
That's it. That is absolutely it.
Now
that was about a month and a half in.
So a month and a half in, so did you put wheels on it and then figure, okay, I got the wheels I want on it. Now here's how wide I need the fenders. Is that kind of the build process? Like you started building out from that point, and then the stance and all that stuff dictated the.
Absolutely.
So you got the deep dish center lines in the front and rear.
Absolutely. Those wheels dictated how everything was going to sit. That was before anybody was cutting any beams or narrowing any of that. I took a 73 IRS chassis and cut the tabs off the inner wheel houses in the rear and relocated them to match the bracket mounts on the 73 chassis. It's a 65 model body. Put everything there, got it to where I wanted to set, and just build to the rest. I don't like building a car on a table or on a rack. It's got to set where it's got to set, and you got to work around it, even if it's a little tougher to work with. Once the body turns around and starts taking shape, it'll tell you what it needs. A car will always tell you what it needs. It'll tell you what color it wants to be. All you got to do is pay attention to it.
And now with the interior on the car, the interior, you had Recaro seats in it. I mean, you had the pretty much the staple of what people were doing with Volkswagens back then. Is that right?
It is. The magazines dictated a lot of where I was trying to lean to as far as for insight or help or what was the new wave or what needed to be what. And it evolved over the next year after this show to where it wound up and got finalized. But the interior, like I said, I had to do it. I couldn't afford to pay anybody to do it. So all the door panels, kind of funny story. My mother turned around and helped me put the stripes together. They had brads like you would put paper together in folders. So we drilled a hole, had a 1/4-inch wooden cutout, drilled a hole and put that brad in there, and she'd cover it. And I put it together in sections, and it was just folded over on the back side, and worked out awesome.
Really? A lot of people back in those days, they would do the interior themselves, because you're obviously a lot of us. I think the big difference back in those days was the mini truck guys were the guys that had good credit and a decent job. And the Volkswagen guys we're just the broke dudes trying to be cool. And so we had to get real resourceful, you know, and it sounds to me like that's a lot of what your story was in that.
It absolutely was. One of my buddies told me that I've done so much with so little, nothing now. An idea has always got a solution. You just got to figure out what it is.
Yeah. Now your phone cut out. What was that quote? Your buddy said what to you?
That I've done so much with so little for so long that I can do anything with nothing.
I like it. I mean, honestly, you see it a lot, especially in the Volkswagen community, because of people's inability or their lack of resources. Really is really what motivates and pushes a lot of the build. So you stitched up so you paid somebody to upholster the seats, but you did all the rest of the interior yourself. Is that right? Like carpet, all that stuff, and everything else.
Correct. I knew the seats were, there was no way in the world I could even imagine trying to get there. Met a guy at a car show, talked to him a bit. He did the seats, and I purchased the rest of the fabric from him for the door panels. For the headliner, I gave a shot at the headliner, and it worked out really good. He just sewed it and pleated it to where I could cut it and move it and stretch it around the window. He did a really good job of coaching me through it. Back there again, the whole hobby industry, you meet these people, and they become friends for life. It really worked out. I mean, I'm blessed more than I deserve. I promise you.
Yeah, it's, you know, there's a lot, especially with the show scene back then. You know, it was quite a big deal, especially in the custom department, right? Who could out custom the next guy? The billet scene was just on the move. And you said you reached out to Boyd Coddington and ordered a set of wheels that they made for you, 4-lug pattern, you know, the original VW 4-lug pattern, all that stuff. What do you remember? Like, who do you remember the cars for you that were really they were kind of the cars that would push you, you know, that you'd see in the magazine, you'd be like, man, that's the car that I just gotta, you know, I gotta do something better than that guy. Do you remember if there was any benchmark vehicles that did that for you?
At that point in time, Boyd and Coddington was putting out a lot of street rod stuff, a lot of billet stuff. The industry was really picking up steam as far as the aftermarket parts. The only billet pieces that were on that car were a set of hood hinges, and they were changed 87 or 88, late 87, early 88. The wheels were right behind that. You know, Alan Johnson owns Johnson's Hot Rod Shops. I mean, he was a Volkswagen guy.
Oh, yeah.
Dave Kendig's still a Volkswagen guy.
Yeah. We've had Dave on the podcast. Yeah. He's, you know, he started out as the VW guy and worked from there. And I think the Volkswagen, the platform for the Volkswagen gives people the opportunity to get the courage to build stuff or work on cars, you know?
Absolutely. You're 100% right, because at that point in time, you know, you start talking about, 40 years ago, a lot of guys didn't want to embarrass themselves or reach out or just overstretch their talent. At the end of the day, I mean, I can't save anything for the swim back. It's either a cross or nothing.
Right. Now, with the cover shot that you've got there, the girl that's in the cover, who's this girl in the cover?
That was my girlfriend at the time, Lynn Peeler. That would be my oldest son's mother.
So, I mean,
and he's 36. So,
I mean, the craziest thing is that at the time how old were you when you built this car?
18.
Yeah. So you're 18, 19 years old. Your car is on the cover of a national magazine and your girlfriend in a bikini. You had to think at that point, I'm kind of done. I've achieved all my dreams before I'm 20. You know, from a kid standpoint, I mean, I would think on the East Coast, especially, it would be kind of a big deal for one of the East Coast guys to make it on the cover of a VW Trends magazine.
It was a pinnacle moment for us. For me, when I'm telling you, everything just came full circle and it was real. When Dan approached me and he said, when are you going back? And I said, well, I'm probably going to go back Sunday night. He said, well, I'd like to shoot that thing for a cover. And I was like, I'm supposed to be at work Monday. It was even to the point to where he said, well, I don't know what we're going to do or how we're going to shoot it. He said, he said, has your girlfriend got a bikini? And I said, no. So at that point in time, it was all mad dash to try to get it all put together. She ended up going to buying a bikini. Dan put everything together, found a location to shoot the shot. I mean, it worked out like it should have. It was absolutely just, but you're right. I mean, when it was all over and said and done, and I really thought about it, it was overwhelming to be that young and have the recognition that was going to happen.
Well, I mean, I would think, especially with that car in the 80s, being in on the East Coast again, and you're there and you get featured for the magazine, and it's kind of a big deal, I would think, when you go on the show circuit, and you run this thing on the show circuit for the next 10 years. So I would think, at least out in your stomping grounds, you're kind of the main VW guy out there for a while. Is that right?
Absolutely. Still to this day, a lot of people don't know who I am, but they know the car. Over the years, like I said, I've built and purchased a lot of custom vehicles, cars that mean a lot to me, that have history, what have you. I've got a shop full of them, but I've still got 4 VWs right now that I'm working with. But that car, I mean, we went to Pigeon Forge to the Grand National Roasters, the Grand Hotel for the Shades of the Past show, and to win a street rod show with a Volkswagen was almost unheard of. We did it twice. I went to a couple of ISCA shows with Outstanding Engineering Awards. One of the main things that really that I remember, the first show I went to, the ISCA show, George Barris was there, and he came over and looked the car over and all that. He said, man, that's cool. And that was a big deal to me. Like I said, I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, to get that kind of recognition, it's got to kind of light your fire with respect to, being in the automotive hobby. I mean, a lot of guys get in the hobby and they end up getting burned doing the, kind of either going down the wrong way with respect to people that work on the car. It's a bad job they get done or whatever, and it ends up usually going sideways. But I mean, for you, first car out, to be able to build this car, get the recognition, it's a contemporary car for the time, right? It's got the ZZ Top feel to it, the graphics, all that stuff. It's definitely quintessential, I think, of the 80s customs, and I think, with this, your starting off point, I'm assuming that's the reason you're still, now you told me the shop you're in today is the shop where you built it, right?
The shop that I'm in today is the shop that car was built in. I'm 1,500 feet away from my home. Of course, we opened up a collision center, moved the shop to another location, worked for 35 years in the collision industry and sold 3 shops, and then decided to try and come back home. I've always owned this property. It's home to me. I built another shop behind my main shop just for my personal, where I can put my stuff at and enjoy it, work in peace, if that's what you want to call it. But like I said, I've got 3 I'm working on right now that I love a Volkswagen. I can't get out of my system. I came out to the Grand National Roadster Show. I owned a pickup that was built by John Batera and Boyd Coddington in the 90s. And I purchased it. I carried the Grand National Roadster Show year before last. But that Volkswagens, they hold a special place in my heart. I'll always own 1 or 2. I promise you.
And now, have you built any other since then that were featured?
One of the guys that worked for me was a little younger than me. In the early 90s, we built another one. Wasn't featured in VW Trends. It was featured in Hot VW. That was Daryl Smith. We built one almost like a 39 Ford style. Metal fenders, metal doors, metal running boards. Everything was metal. And it was a big undertaking to build that car. And to see him turn around and hone his skill on that with just a little help was absolutely awesome. It built a bond. He's one of my best friends. I wouldn't take anything for that. And like I said, it all started over a Volkswagen.
And that car was, did you post it? Was that the pink and black car?
Correct.
So that's the car that we're looking at on the screen now. This is the car that
That's it.
And this car, this is kind of a wild switch from the car that you built when you were 18 years old, but it looks like this one's got, those are like, were those like 60 Cadillac taillights, or what are those?
60 Cadillac taillights. Those running boards, you see the doors are shut, they're cut up into the running boards. Mm-hmm. The rear windows are they're just quarter window pieces made into a split window. Every piece of that car is steel.
Oh, wow. And how long was the build on this car?
3 years.
Wow. And this car still around out there in Georgia, or what?
The car went to Michigan somewhere, and I have not seen it. I saw a picture of it on one of the display tables at Summit, and I tried to reach out to them to figure out whose it was, and I've got no response. But that car was a metal shaping undertaking.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be quite a bit. I mean, it's funny how the automotive industry works, where, you know, back in the 80s, you know, in the 1960s, fiberglass is a new technology. By the time it hits the 80s, it becomes something really popular in the aftermarket. And then we hit the 2000s, and there's this whole thing to go retro, little body filler as possible, metal work the car, like almost going back in technology versus, you know, doing fiberglass, which is lighter and stronger, more durable, all that stuff. But it's interesting how we've seen the car industry kind of revert back to more traditional methods and means of manufacturing and customizing stuff. You're currently in the automotive business. No, go ahead.
It has, you're correct. It has reverted back to a lot of metal shaping, metal working. I mean, and there's a lot of talent out there now. I mean, huge talent. These guys over at Creative Car Studio, I mean, they've got some great guys over there. I mean, some of the things that you see come out, I've seen women with more talent than you can imagine here that can really shape this metal, manipulate it into what they want. There's a lot more tools and availability out there now to the average person now that they can work with. I mean, metal's pretty forgiving, and you can pretty much put it back where you want to put it back.
Yeah, and currently you're in the automotive industry. What do you do now in the automotive industry?
I've sold the body shops. Right now, I own a wheel repair company. We just a lot of time, a lot of effort, recondition about 200 wheels a day for the collision industry now. It's something I can control versus everything's gone corporate world with the collision industry. With a small shop, it was easier for us to sell out and turn around and come back and do what we do.
And now, since you're in the wheel industry, which is kind of taking a little bit of a turn from paint and body, has that given you any different insight with custom cars that you're wanting to build from the wheel perspective now?
Well, there's a lot of guys out there that build new that have really, they set a benchmark out there. Everything from the West Coast, you know what you see out there. I mean, it's almost limitless. It's almost limitless. And I'm doing a 61 right now. And like I said, the wheel's the next step on it, and it'll determine what it's going to be. All the engine's done, all the body work's done, paint work's real close. So I'm looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it.
And what is the theme of this car or the style that you're going to be building? This kind of a hot rod style? Because that seems to be a pattern you're following, or what do you like?
Well, no, it's more of the West Coast style. We went out to the Grand National Roadster Show 2 years ago. And in the parking lot, in the back corner, Bob carried us out there, and there was more VWs out there that were just some of the most insane, beautiful, I mean, detailed VWs that I've ever seen in my life. It's the East Coast, you don't see anything like that. Now, there's a few here and there, but the West Coast, it's as real as it gets. We're planning on going to the Grand National Roadster Show again this year, and I'm sure if it's a nice day, that those guys will be out there in full force. I mean, I can't explain or even make anybody understand how it is out there. Everybody on the East Coast thinks, well, they just see magazines here and there. There's a couple of them. There was 40 or 50, some of the most insane vehicles you'll ever see in your life.
Yeah. So with the style of the one that you're building, well, first I'll see you at the Grand National Roadster Show this year, because I'll be going down with Bob, and I'll be bringing my Type 34 Carmen Ghia that was just finished not long ago. So I'm going to be there on Saturday for the car show. Matter of fact, you just reminded me how to get online tonight and register for Saturday's event. But Yeah, there's definitely a difference in East Coast, West Coast style. And I think out here, we've got so much more energy because the cars we start with are so rust free that we've got all the energy to spend time polishing and detailing nuts and bolts and making it clean versus you guys are just happy to have a car that's back to 100% steel on the East Coast. Yeah.
That's a fact. I promise you there. Finding one with as minimal rust as you can find is a feat in itself. Matter of fact, just Friday night, Daryl and I were talking about that to build a nice car, it's got to come from the West Coast. It's got to come from where Texas, Arizona, somewhere in there. Anything in Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, it's had a pretty good rough life.
Yeah, that out there, the moisture content, and when they park everything in the earth, you know what I mean? Like out here, my bus sat in the desert out here from it was a 67. It was 9 years old when it was parked in Goldfield, Nevada, when the tags expired. And I picked it up in 2001, and there's not a single rust hole in the car. There's a little surface rust on the floor. Other than that, original paint, everything was dried out and cracked from the heat, but the car was bone dry of rust still to this day. And it's like, I remember when I was younger, I had a car that I got in an accident and I wrecked the quarter panel. And to me, that was like, there's no way that's ever getting fixed because you need to have a welder and you need to use like a legitimate body shop. And I just thought to myself, man, I'll never fix that car. It'll never be nice. And it just ended my desire to touch that car because of that kind of damage, and now you're looking at guys are building cars back from a dashboard, if it's a really rare car or whatever. So yeah, I think environment dictates a lot of the level of detail, because if the bodywork and paint's done in 2 months, right, then you got all the time in the world to polish nuts and bolts and get everything dialed. So the car you're building is going to be more of a West Coast style car. You're going to do, but it's going to have the Tony Hunter flair on it. It's going to have something a little bit different, not just out of the box.
It'll have a little bit of flair to it, but I want something that I can get in and appreciate. I mean, the West Coast over there, you don't see a lot of that over here. You don't see much of that at all. Attention to detail is a given. I like things that you can't see that you got to look for here lately. I just like a nice, pure car that I can enjoy, but like a bigger, just killer wheels, great stance. The West Coast gives that all to us on a daily. I just want a West Coast car.
Well, I'm looking forward. You have a color picked out yet?
It's probably going to be almost close to an olive green.
Oh, nice. And wheels, you're going to come up with something different for the wheels, or what are you thinking for wheels?
Well, I've been talking to Paul, trying to figure out what I can and can't do as far as width-wise, height-wise. I want the car to ride. I don't want to have to get into ride stuff, but I want it to turn around and be as low as I can get it and still drive it. Roads are rough around here. They're rough, but I'm going to drive them. If I can't drive them anymore, I don't want them. I had so much fun and memories and everything with driving that red car all over. I mean, I drove to Texas in that car. I mean, that's 1,100 miles away in a Volkswagen. I drove the car in the snow when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's a pretty bold move. And I mean, driving those cars is really kind of the best thing to do, because that's when you really enjoy it. It's one thing to look at a car that's super pretty. It's a whole different ball of wax when you get behind the wheel and this ain't right and that's not right. And you can't really drive it like a normal car because it's so low. You got to go super slow. You want to be able to drive the car from a, enjoyable standpoint. And like you said, back in the day when we were all young, I mean, I remember hopping in a car with no interior and driving it, 300 miles. No big deal, because it was my car. It cost $8 to fill it up, and I had 135s of the inner tubes on the front. And it was just one of those things where we were young and didn't care and no spare tire and whatever. And so, there's something to be said about cars that you can drive every day if you want to. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with. And so you're thinking you're probably going to run the Fuke alloys maybe or something like that and kind of build you a classic West Coast builder, or what are you thinking?
Well, like I said, it's still up for grabs right now. Just trying to figure out something that's I like something that's almost a almost a billet looking wheel, but the Fukes they're always a guaranteed go-to.
Right.
But the biggest thing is getting the wheel and tire combination I want: width, height, size. It's got to set right. The car will tell you what it needs. It's either a yes or no, and it doesn't come from me. It comes from the car.
Yeah.
It'll tell you what it needs, as well as tell you color, interior, everything. All you got to do is pay attention.
No, there's no question that stance and wheels make the car every time. And I'm looking forward to seeing your car. I'm looking forward to seeing you have a take a look at my Type 34 Ghia that I'll have on display out there at the road show on Saturday, and spending some time with you and chatting. Now, real quick, back to your car real quick. One of the things I did with my car, which everybody did in the 80s, but it seems nobody's doing it nowadays, is a full stereo system. Now, in my car, I just did a full stereo system. I'm looking at the ZZ Top Bug. You got a couple 12s, and it looks like you got Serwin Vegas in here. I don't know what kind of amps and stuff you got in here, but this thing is it's definitely built to make some noise. You going to put a system in this car that you're going to build?
I'll put a system in the car, but nowadays everybody's trying to hide everything. But yeah, it'll hold its own. Absolutely. I can't get that out of me. That's about like you. It's in you. You can't get it out.
No, I think it's, a lot of people go with the luggage suitcase stereo systems and all that stuff. And that's all fine and dandy. But I think now that I'm in my car and I've got subwoofers and I got mids and tweeters and amplifiers, all kind of stuff. And the cool part is it's all run off my phone. It's connected to Bluetooth through my stock radio, but it's just such a cool thing to get in there. And everybody's almost like, what? You put a full system in the car? And I'm like, yeah, it's what we used to do back in the day. And now when I drive, and what's funny is I detuned the motor a bit, and I did like a stock 1600 in it so that I'm just cruising and I'm not stressing out about overheating or running it ragged or whatever. I mean, the plans are to bump the motor up. I got to bump it up a little bit. But I wanted something that I could really enjoy when back in the day when you built your car, it was your show car and your street car type thing, and they're just so much more enjoyable when they're drivable. Now this car, you had the 1835 motor in it with the dual DCNFs and all that stuff. And that's the car. I mean, from the last time you had that car, last time when you had it and it was sold, it had the billet wheels on it.
Yeah, it had the billet wheels on it. Still had the 1835 in it. That car sat outside for most of its life. I didn't have a garage. Didn't cover it up. Didn't anything. It had Deltron Del Glow Clear on it, and I mean, it did its job. You could turn around and polish on that thing, and it would just shine like nobody's business. That car, like I said, the motor never gave me not one day a problem. I had a friend of mine, Jeff Watts, build the motor for me. The only thing that it ever did to me is the clutch. I had to try and back up on a curb because the car set so low so we could get up underneath it and adjust the clutch, because I used almost like a rail buggy type setup for the right when I converted it to right-hand drive.
Yeah, hydraulic clutch.
Correct. It had all hydraulic clutch, and we had to bleed it out. So I had to back up on a curb when we were headed to Gatlinburg through the mountains to turn around and adjust the clutch on it. And that's the only problem I ever had with that old motor or transmission, any of that, transaxle. It was awesome.
Well, I think one of the big takeaways from this podcast is that hopefully people that are out there in Georgia, they're listening, they know they've seen this car somewhere, and they're going to reach out to Let's Talk Dubs, and we're going to try to get you reunited back with your car. I'll tell you an interesting story. I built a car in 91, 92. I finally finished my first car, paint job, everything, and then I blew the motor up, and I was so mad. I went and bought a 65 Riviera that I still own to this day, right? Sold this Bug, polar silver, full polished phone dials, chrome taillights, but like tweed interior, like just dialed in. And I remember pulling the car to the wrecking yard, and I said, man, I'm going to give this car to my firstborn son. Well, my firstborn son's 25, and I sold the car a long time ago, but just over the nostalgia of all the stuff, I happen to hop on. So I'm going to pose this scenario to you, right? So maybe this happened to you. I owned that car for about 6 years. I tracked down the car because I saw it at a car show probably back in the early 2000s, and I had no interest to get the car back because that was my old car, whatever. And now that I've started going down this path of reminiscing and all the stuff, I really wanted to see if I could track the car down. I end up tracking the guy down who owns the car. I reach out to him, still painted the same color. Well, they changed the color a little bit on it, like put a clear with a pearl in or something stupid. But I tracked the guy down. We started talking, and I said, hey, I'm interested in buying that car. What do you say? And he says, well, I've owned it for like 20 years, so I got a lot of memories with this car, and I don't think I'd ever sell it. And it was really, it really kind of bothered me. And I said, well, I built it, like all that stuff you're looking at that you enjoy, And then I just said, well, I appreciate it. If you ever go to sell that car, he's like, no, I don't think I'm going to sell it. Maybe when I get it finished. But if I do sell it, I decide to tell you. So then I had to think to myself. So I had the car to where it was freshly done. Was so frustrated, never really got to put miles on it, doing that kind of stuff. And now this guy's owned it longer than I have. So it's almost like he married the girlfriend that I never married, and now I'm trying to get it back. So what
I hear you.
What would you think? You find the car and the guy says, I've had this car for 30 years and it just means so much to me.
The car really means nothing to anybody but me at this point, because I feel it would have shown up by now or somebody would have seen it somewhere. It's parked somewhere, somebody's garage, somebody's backyard, somewhere. The car was converted back to left-hand drive.
No.
The 1835 got taken out of it, and the 1600 got put back in it. I know that's about all I know of the car. It just disappeared somewhere in the late 90s. It's been gone. I mean, I figured it would resurface. We had talked about building a new one to that style, and I've only got so many in me from here on out.
Sure.
And we're just going to give it a chance, kind of see what's out there. I'm hoping from this right here, maybe somebody knows where it's at or knows what's left of it. At least I can get some closure with it,
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to see if we could track that car down, and I think it would be. I just think it'd be super cool if you ended up back with the car again. I just think, especially because it means so much to you. It's the first car you ever built, something you cut your teeth on. A lot of real cool stuff was done back then, and we'll do what we can to see if we can get our listeners out there in Georgia to reach out to us and let us know if they've found the Eliminator Bug so we can get Tony reconnected with that car again. I think that would be awesome.
Bill, that would be great. It would be absolutely awesome. At least know what happened.
That's it. You got to get some closure.
Like the ex-girlfriend. That's what you say?
That's it. Well, listen, Tony, I appreciate you taking some time on the podcast coming out. I'll see you at the Grand National Roadster Show. Anything before we wrap up that you wanted to mention or any of that kind of stuff?
Like I said, the VW community, I can't say enough about. As well as I do. I mean, if you want to solve some of the world's problems, give somebody a project car. Give them something to do.
Yeah.
When we were out in Pomona, there was all walks of life. Every nationality, everything out there, and not a problem one. Not a problem one. It's the hot rod community, the Volkswagen community. When those guys came together from the accident I had, they owed me nothing. They would have done anything at that point in time. It taught me a lot about life and a lot about cars. It's a big part of our life. It really is.
No, absolutely. I appreciate, I appreciate the people, the friends I've made in this hobby. And, it's things where I meet up with a guy that's into cars. We hang out for one weekend, and then I'll see the guy for a year. We hang out, we meet up again at some location. We hang out for another weekend. And we're like best of pals, send messages back and forth, talking to each other all the time because we have that core foundation of that thing that brings us together, which is the car hobby. And there's no question that there's something that if you're not into it, you'll never understand it. So, well, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll get some hits on this and see if we can figure out what happened to the old bug.
Bill, the pleasure was mine. I enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you here just a few weeks.
Absolutely, but I'll see you at the Roadster Show.
Take care, my friend.
Well, if you like that podcast, and I'm sure you did, make sure you share this podcast with all your VW friends. Copy and paste wherever, however you're listening to this. Share it on your Facebook, share it on your Instagram. Share this podcast so it gets out to all your VW friends so they can enjoy the 300 episodes of cool content that we have about the VW scene. So I'll see you guys at the Grand National Roadster Show. If I don't see you, if you want to support the podcast, go to letstalkdubs.com. Click on the store tab, pick up some merch, support your favorite podcast. Also, don't forget, One Crazy Weekend is open and ready for registration and room reservation. So you guys make sure, go get your rooms reserved now. Go to letstalkdubs.com, click on the Showtime link, and use the link there to reserve your rooms at the Orleans Hotel and Casino. They will close the room bookings 30 days out. So make sure you go book your rooms today. Don't miss the best weekend all year in Las Vegas. Strip cruise, poker run, car show, now added for this year, bowling tournament, poker tournament. It's going to be the best time you've ever had. And until next week, later.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen. It's got everything that people who like the Bug like.